I can't escape. You know, I go to Giants supermarket or Home Depot. Somebody recognize me because Call Me Al is playing. He's like, hey, wait a minute.
Isn't that guy?
That's the guy. Your name is Bakithi. And I said, no. No, you sent the wrong guy. He's like,
Hey, it's Russ and Ryan from AMS, and we had the chance to sit down with Bakithi Kumalo today in the studio to talk about his beginnings in South Africa, Paul Simon, and most of all, spreading the joy of music. Hope you guys enjoy. Fantastic. Bakithi, thank you so much for joining us.
Man,
it's a pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here.
He's a new guy?
Yeah.
Yeah, a new guy. Welcome.
Thank you. It feels so good to be here.
Thank you. What a great place. I remember we were here with Phil Jones a couple of years ago.
Yeah, it was a few years ago now. Goes quick.
Yeah.
Like, blink your eyes. But while you're playing for us. They don't know you've been playing for us for like the last 10, 12 minutes or so. The one thing that just stands out right away is your joy. You have such a joy when you're playing this. And we've called it out with other, we've had a few folks like Victor Wooten and Larry Basilio who we've had the pleasure to sit down with as well. And we could just sit back and just take it all in because it's contagious. You start playing those bass lines and we're like fighting like, how can we not smile? How can we not be in a good mood?
Well, it was like that for me, in South Africa when Paul invited us to play in the studio. I was just so happy to play and get out of the poverty. I didn't play bass to be, the legend or, famous. I just played to survive. And I did it so well that really it was like do or die because recording in South Africa, it was tough. I didn't even have a passport to leave South Africa. But and I said, man, I'm going to play my best on this and hopefully get an opportunity to get a passport to come to New York.
Mm-hmm.
And Paul did it. And it was not an easy ride for me, especially that I don't read music and everything. I was like depending on my thinking. And then, of course, too, I was playing the Fretless.
Yeah.
And the Fretless saved me because of the sound of the Fretless. So everything became so easy for me to play because of the Fretless. But I had to learn as I'm going with Paul. For 40 years now, I've been learning how to just be a good player.
Well, let's even talk pre-Paul, when you were early starting up with your band, starting up with the bass. How did that all kind of come about in terms of you picking up the bass in the first? Because I understood that like you were taking cues from like left-hand accordion was like an influence and things of that nature.
that came later. That came later after I got my Fretless. And once I got kicked out on many bands, because a lot of bands, they were playing American music, like, George Benson, Breezin', and Earth, Wind and Fire, Shining Stars, on, all the popular songs that was famous then, because that's what the radio stations in South Africa, they gave us. Like Motown, James Jamison, Fusion, all that stuff. Very light of South African music. Because some of the music was out of tune, so that's why the radio station never played them a lot. But my uncle from my grandmother's house, my uncle played saxophone, so him and his friends, they used to practice at my grandmother's house, and I used to watch him, just sit next to him playing the saxophone.
How old are you?
I was about 6, 7 years old.
Okay.
And I just stay with him. Every year it got better, and every time he plays with his friends, he's like, sit down here, do not leave, just sit down until we finish. And I watch him until I turned about 10 years old, and he started to show me how to play the saxophone. And I said, I don't think I can do this one. And I don't think any kids play saxophone. This is like old people instruments. I didn't know that the kids can play because he was old. But I just got very interested. And also, there was a lot of problems now in South Africa because my uncle played only weekends. But during the week, he has to find a job because You know, the system was brutal. There was really a lot of stuff. But for me, I just stayed with my uncle and until I was about, I think about 12 years old. I'm trying to remember this. This has been many years.
Take your time.
So by the age of 12, that's when I started to leave my grandmother's house to go to, you know, like in the township, watch other bands playing and try to join in. And sometimes I asked them if I can play a little bit because I knew some couple of songs, like this song. It goes like this.
Sitting on the dock?
Have you ever seen the rain?
Oh.
You know, like playing like that with my thumb. But I got very interested and I never lose focus of the music. And sometimes when I don't have the instruments at home, I would take a piece of cardboard and cut it like the bass and then draw the lines with the Sharpie and the frets and then just, you know, practice the fingering.
When did you get your own first bass?
But then before I got my Fretless, I was playing all different bass. Like every band that I joined, they have a bass. And the bass was like a Gibson Thunderbird, the one with the big body. Yeah. It was really hard to hold the damn thing. You know, I put it on the floor like this, play like that. But yeah, it was hard. But 1972, my mother bought me a Fretless because I needed a bass, but the Fretless was the cheapest bass.
Is it the Washburn?
The Washburn it was B20 Washburn. Okay. And I bought the Washburn and played this instrument, and I got kicked out many bands because I was out of tune. I didn't know the instruments. There's no frets. And then we play like...
Yeah, the pitch.
Yeah, the friend, so out of tune, and then the singer will hold the ears. Something is wrong here. They turn around. No, that's him, because his bass doesn't have the line, so he doesn't know where he's playing.
That's called jazz.
Yeah. So then I knew that this is going to be a problem. So the best thing for me is to go to, you know, the village and just play with the village. So I went to the place in Lesotho where the guy is playing the accordion with the left hand. So then that's when I started to hear the fretless on the left hand accordion when he played, like the boy in the bubble. That was from him.
Okay.
You know, I learned that from his accordion thing. And then I just stay with them playing the traditional stuff. But then when I go back home after 6 months, it's weather report.
Yeah.
And it just got complicated, and I said, I don't think I can do this. But you know, I just stay with it, and then record the traditional South African music. And that's when Paul, somebody gave him the Graceland tape, Boy in the Bubble, a demo, and Paul liked that, and he liked the bass sound.
But how do you bridge that? Like, how did you? I mean, you come from the small village. Yeah. How did that get introduced to Paul Simon's producer?
Because I was huge. I was like the top bass player, top session bass player now. When Paul came in the 80, I think it was 85, when he came to South Africa, I was already recording with all kinds of South African musicians.
Sure.
And Paul liked the sound of the fretless. But now I was not signed with any record label in South Africa. I was independent. And when Paul came, my mother was sick, you know, and so I needed some medicine to help my mother. Then I find a job as a mechanic. I don't know how to fix cars, but I was like a runner. The guy says, get a hammer, and then I bring a screwdriver. He says, that is not a screwdriver, and then you'll draw. The hammer looks like this. Because I didn't really speak English, so I didn't know, but I didn't want to say to him, I don't know, because he might fire me. So I'd rather bring something wrong and then he correct me. But so I did that for a while, and then we got a call at the job, which is I worked for the guy for 2 months. Mm-hmm. And then we got this call that Paul was looking for me in the studio. I didn't even know who the guy was. Paul Simon, and I was so scared, and I was dropping things like, hey, what happened? Is he a policeman? You know, did I do something wrong? You know, I was scared because, you know, like if there's an English name, you know, he's not from the village.
Right.
It's either you're in trouble or something good, you know? But it was something good, and I show up in the studio, and Paul changed my life right away.
Well, isn't it safe to say, though, too, you changed his life? I mean, you think about the arc of his career and where he was at that stage in, say, 85, 86, and then this music comes out, and it's different than anything else he'd ever done before. And so you hear those bass lines, this is as much a song that you did as much as it is a Paul Simon song. You know, when I hear those bass lines, I know exactly who it is.
Yeah, but you know, that session was it was a gamble because nobody knew what was going to happen. You know, even Paul, it took him a while to really to know that he's got something. Because first of all, you know, everybody was playing a bunch of stuff and Paul is trying to find one. Where's one?
Yeah, well, it'll throw you.
But to what degree did he have the material already written for those songs in those sessions?
No, when they sent him the tape, he kind of liked what he had on the tape, so he wanted to work on that and write the lyrics on top of, like, especially the Boy in the Bubble, because the traditional of the Boy in the Bubble, they don't go to the minor. They don't go there. So Paul had to change that because, you know, it was just like just one groove going. So when he writes the lyrics, he needed that minor. And then I put boom, you know, just make it worse than a little bit and then go back to that African thing again. But it was a lot of work that we didn't understand what Paul wanted to do, you know, but at the end, him and the engineer, they put it together.
I was going to ask, on a typical day for those sessions, who's directing it? I mean, you know, he's coming in, it sounds like he's not sure what he wants. You guys are going, we don't know what this guy wants. And how does something so clearly, like, it just the way it was hatched, it landed,
It's
it was
the
perfect?
engineer, Roy Haley,
Okay.
because he loved everything we played and he convinced Paul, like, Paul, there's something here.
Okay.
Let's work on that, you know. And then they will go in the studio later on and start editing things and, you know, make it work, you know, the form-wise. But everything was all over the place until, you know, they slice things, cut this, cut that, and then add this.
But that, to me, that's the point. I mean, it sounds like Paul is falling in with you guys rather than the other way around. Typically here in, you know, in America with rock stuff, you know, if it's a singer-songwriter, he'll have a couple demos, he'll show it to you. Not that you don't know this, but point being, it sounds to me like he was coming in there a little bit more like, I'm as much surrendering to you guys and your style.
He was dragged by the grooves, the rhythms, stuff that he has never had before. But then he has, you know, it challenged him to figure out how he can sing on that. Because, you know, like in Africa, it's 1/4, 1/5, or 1/4/5. You can sing anything, you know, there's no wrong note.
Sure.
You know, but for Paul to sing like that, he made it work, and he's brilliant in terms of arranging and come up with things that's going to make sense, you know.
And reinventing himself. I mean, it was totally different than anything he had done before, yet it sounded like Paul Simon, which is kind of amazing in and of itself.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was about learning and just give him the bass that's consistent, that's not going to confuse him when he's singing. He doesn't know, you know, where's everything, because the guitars are playing different places, you know, but the bass is sitting with the drums, so you can, you know where he's one.
It was like one big instrument. Those rhythm lines between the bass and the drums, it's like you almost don't need anything else.
And for me too, I just play to get out of South Africa, because this was the opportunity. Because if I didn't do that, I'll be stuck home and I wouldn't even have a moment to spend time with my son and, you know, and everything. But I had to do this. And
but that's kind of the irony of it. I mean, to the fact that you had to get out of such a brutal situation, yet so much of growing up there informs the way you play. I don't know any other bass player, at least over here, that sounds like that. And so, you know, it did give you the gift.
It is the voice that also too, I didn't know I had that voice until, you know, the Graceland. Yeah. And I said, wait a minute, I can stay with this. You know, I think this is working because I can play what Marcus Miller is playing, or, you know, Stanley, all these greatest bass players. But also too, I have their influence because I had to learn how to slap harmonics and all of that stuff. So they contributed a lot to my playing. But playing the African music, that kind of style, it just made me a greatest bass player of all time.
So do you have a favorite bass line from that Graceland album that you really thoroughly enjoy, stands out to you during those sessions?
All of it, starting with the Graceland, you know, because Graceland is... Bingo, darling, bingo, darling. You know, so because it's so simple, I like to play and watch people dancing. I don't like a chaotic bass.
Yeah.
That's why I can't play solos and I can't play what the younger players are doing now, because for me, it's not the real bass. Like, you know, Chuck Rainey, Anthony Jackson, all these amazing bass players that they play for people to enjoy the bass.
Sure.
Now the bass is like a marathon.
Sure. Sure.
You know? But I mean, it's young, great bass players. But for us, it was like create as a bass player. You know, create the foundation, and then everybody will play around there.
Makes sense.
What are you playing through? I mean,
What is this little
why
guy?
don't you walk us through the Phil Jones? Because this is my first interaction with that particular amp.
Phil, you don't know Phil Jones?
Phil Jones,
We
I
do,
know, but not that particular amp.
My friend, this is a new one, the X4G, C. But I played the first one, Nano, and that saved my time on tours to rehearse at the hotel room, so I can hear the bass like it's gonna sound on stage.
Sure.
But it sounds small, but it's the same tone when I go on stage. So I will practice the songs. Even when I rehearse at Paul's house, I use a small amp to make sure that the bass is not carried away. And Phil Jones is amazing. I've been with Phil Jones for, I think, over 15 years. When I first discovered them, and I said, that's it for me. That's the bass amp I want to play.
What was your first interaction with the brand, period? How did you get introduced to the Phil Jones amps?
It's because we were trying some different things. And first I worked with Rick Carlson from Phil Jones. And Rick, before, he used to work for SWR. And we've been friends since then. But a couple of years later, I think it was 4 or 5 years, and I saw him at the NAMM with Phil Jones. And he said, man, come check out this stuff. And I started to play Phil Jones. I never leave the booth. I just stayed there. I said, I can't believe he has...
Closing up, you got to wrap it.
I can't
Are you gonna
believe
tell him?
he has these small speakers and they sound the way they sound. But, you know, you have to understand as a bass player, you don't want to turn the volume up and have a massive sound. You just want to have a tone so that you don't destroy the speakers, because they're so small and delicate, but they sound unbelievable.
Sure.
So, and then I fell in love, and he gave me a few, and I took them home, and I showed Paul. Paulie never said to me I play loud. Once I played the Phil Jones.
Yeah. And this is your
he
main
was-
rig.
Yeah.
Because we just played.
I add as we go. I can add more as we
By the
go.
way, pizza's here.
Yeah, you hear the phone?
But the funny thing is, we were listening to you
gotta
guys
turn this
play.
off.
No, it's all right. And there's a difference between being loud and being heard. And you could hear the bass perfectly fine. You were not stepping over anything, but we also wanted to feature you as the player we're listening to. But there was nothing gratuitous about it. It just sounded good.
It's very good. It's very clear, because really think about this. The bass has all the stuff, has all the preamp is loaded with tones, so there's no need to put a lot of bass, and you just set it up nice and flat and then do everything on this bass. And then when it comes through the PA system,
Right.
it's much easier.
Well, and when people see the video that we're talking about of you playing with the band before, I mean, I think they're going to be like, well, what is he plugged into? And it's like, and when I came over, you're like, that's it. That's the rig. You and that.
I won't say I was a naysayer, but when you come in from anybody, if they ever see this for the first time, it is a little disarming, because you see it in the compact size and the nature is like, how's he going to cut through the mix? But through
They
that,
haven't discovered this. You know, this is a lifesaver. Even if you live in an apartment, you play well. You can use the headphones. It's got the Bluetooth. Easy to practice. You can practice and play at the same time, and play quiet and not be loud. But if you have 4 tens, you're running into problems. You're fighting, the bass is fighting with the amp to get the tone. You don't know which one is too much lower end, is the amp or the bass.
Sure.
So for me, it's like I play like a grown man now. I just like simple. I just like to, a clean tone. Like if I play, let's say I play like. You can hear those things, but with the big speakers, it's hard to hear those things. Great for slapping too. Now I got the 6-string, too many strings, but. I mean, it's coming through this, but you can still hear that tone.
All the attack.
That same tone is on the same tone. It's just the volume. This is much louder than this one, but never lose the tone.
So if you're using that for practice sessions and portable, you take it with you everywhere.
I know that's how it's going to sound on stage.
Totally. This is your main live rig.
Yes.
Now, in the studio?
And I can add, it depends on, like, you know, playing in places where, like, it's like Royal Albert Hall, Hyde Park. Hyde Park, I can add more speakers.
Sure.
So that, you know, I can get more drive on stage for the band.
Push more air.
Yeah.
Right.
But you can add or just play like this. Yeah, it's amazing.
And what about in the studio? How do you typically record these days?
The studio, I use the P5, which is the same knobs, same preamp, but it's a DI.
Okay.
So I get that. But then sometimes if the speakers are not good to use with the P5, then I get confused with the tone. But yeah, the studio, you can do that, take the DI and then put the microphone in front of it, then you get a good sound.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Do you think so much of what we call a simple rig is because you spent so many years on such rudimentary gear to come up with your sound and the way you play, rather than having everything given to you right out of the gate? You developed that sound and style, and it was almost like, this is all I need because it's all here. I'm doing all that stuff with.
Yeah, it helps, you know, the hands, they got the stuff, but, you know, also the gear, you know, you work together, you know. Like Future, I cannot play anything else. Sometimes I do gigs like where they're gonna give me, you know, I won't mention the names of the amps. I struggle, you know, I keep going and turning things up. I never, here it's like once it's set up, let's go.
Yeah. So using in the studio, you're talking about your rigs and some of the albums. One album in particular that I was dying to ask you about was the Made Up Mind sessions with the
Derek Truss?
Yes, with the Tedeschi Trucks Band. That's one of my, I think it was 2013. Is that sound right? Oh my gosh! Yeah, Misunderstood.
Misunderstood.
Oh yeah, that was one where. So it's an interesting time in their history, right? Because I think that was kind of coming off fresh when Oteil was no longer in the band, I believe, or had departed. So there's multiple bass players on that album. They have Pino Palladino.
Yeah. And Tim LaFay.
Right, and you're featured on Misunderstood and Idle Wind.
Yes.
Right? Tracks 3 and 4, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
How did that come? How did that come about?
Now we were in Taiwan with Paul, the Blues Festival, and Derek Trucks was playing there with his band, with Susan. And so we hang out dressing room, and he says, "Yeah, man, we would love to have you come play with us. You know, would you like to play with us on the recording?" And I'm like, "Yes, please. You know, just tell me when." And finally, I went to Jackson to record those songs. And funny thing, Pino Palladino was there too, because we split the tracks, me and Pino.
Yep.
And so I record these songs. Kofi, Oteil's brother, plays keyboard.
Yep.
Yeah, it was always making me nervous in the studio. It's like, yeah, man, you know, you're gonna play some good stuff, because my brother was killing.
Oh man!
And I'm like, oh man, the pressure is on me. But you know, I had to play like the way I play, because you know, they got me in the session, and I wasn't playing fretless. I was playing a 6-string bass.
Yeah.
And they liked that. And then they're like, "You want to go on tour with us?"
That's what was my question.
Yeah, and I said, I will, you know, look at Paul's schedule. If he's not doing anything, I'll take the tour. And I took chances, and I went out for 3 months, go on tour with them.
Whole set?
The whole set. And I remember when we rehearsed, the first time rehearsal, Oteil walks into a room, and my heart was pounding like, what the hell, is he back? I'm losing the gig or something.
Take a hike.
Yeah, and then he says to me, "Man, dude, you just show up here and play these songs. I mean, like, it took me like a couple of years to play these songs, and you just show up." I say, you know, hey, I got an ear. I don't read much, but I can hear things quicker and learn quicker.
Yeah. Well, going back to what you were saying when you were talking about, or even you as well, with you said Marcus Miller. You're you. That's for saying a lack of a better way of putting it. You
Nobody
play
can be
you.
nobody.
Nobody could be you but you.
It's your DNA. Yeah.
And your DNA is like literally a tone print on. That's a great example of an album. Like multiple bass players throughout. When Made Up Mind comes in, Pino
You know who
Palladino
it is,
comes
yeah.
in the bass. I knew it wasn't you. I knew it was Pino Palladino. He has a tone print. When they did those 2 tracks that we just talked about with you, there's a tone print on that for that bass, the way you play and the way that you interpret that music. I mean, just can you speak to that in terms of what your own experience is when you're in on these sessions?
In the session, it's very nerve breaking because you don't want to overdo it. You don't want to be stopped. They say you overplaying. Can you just play simple?
That was simple.
So my thing is starts with the tone. The tone is very important. Before you play any note, you want to make sure that your tone is right, and then you play, because you can go any direction when your tone is right.
Yeah.
But
That's a
if the
good
tone
point.
is not right, you're gonna play a lot of things. It's gonna be a chaos. But for me, it's the tone, and then also I play simple. Then when they ask more, I got more stuff. Can you slap on the bridge? Can you do this? And like Call Me Al. I play the finger thing. No, first it was a slapping. And then it goes to the chorus. I kept it simple so that Paul can sing, and then the change I made was the slapping to get a little bit
Then
of
you do that
drive.
wicked bass solo. And
Yeah, how'd that come about? We had to ask, and you've
Well,
probably only
yeah.
been asked once or twice. So.
Well, that one was I would say it was a gift that I was given by God, because it was my birthday, and then I asked, and Paul trusted me. He's like, hey, go ahead. If it's good, we'll keep it. If not, we'll find something else. I said, okay, let's do it.
I don't even know what I'm looking at.
But you had to learn. I mean, when they took the back half of
I
it,
had
they
to learn the
reversed
backwards
it.
because what I did was. And then they stopped me.
Oh.
And then he turned the tape backwards, and then.
Yeah.
And I had to learn it. That took me
To do it
I would
live.
say about 3 months to learn it.
Yeah,
To
I
play
don't doubt it.
that way. And then sometimes the speed, Steve will play very fast. Dun, 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 dun.
Give
Like,
him
hey,
stink
man.
eye.
Yeah.
What I was going to ask though is who in the studio or the live band situation obviously drum and bass go like this, but many times you get surprised. Sometimes different instruments in a band are listening, or they tend to like to play off maybe another instrument more so. Like what are the different components? Like a band we had today, right? We had drums, we had brass, we had keys, guitar. Where does your ear typically drift maybe outside of even the realm of the drum? If drum's number one, what would be your next instrument that you're...
The next instrument is the guitar player, to see what the guitar is doing.
Interesting.
Because like on the Graceland, the guitar player was playing all these like...
Real clean, yeah.
So for me, it was about, hey, wait a minute, there's a line, I can take it for the bass.
Yeah.
So I play to listen to what they're doing and then borrow something. And then when I do it on the bass, it's exciting.
Sure.
But the guitar player was playing all the time. He didn't mean anything.
So, but how do you
He was
know?
like-
How do you know where to pick it? Like you're like, that's it. Like you just know it when you hear it, and you're
Yeah,
like,
because I'm playing so simple to hear what they're doing, everybody.
right.
And then once there's a room for me to do something, I already got the stuff because I'm listening. And I listen to what the drummer is doing, the hi-hats. Okay, so maybe I can go with the hi-hats. Instead of playing on one, I say... I learn how to just, play around those things without really understanding much what I'm doing. But I just, okay, I like this one. I can work with this one. I can, the drums, I stay with the bass drum a little bit and then move. I'm very busy, but not busy playing, but busy listening.
Right.
Trying to
Well,
be.
that's a key. I mean, a lot of people don't listen when they're playing. They just
No, you have to
steam
listen.
forward.
That's why my music mentors is about that. When I tell these kids, and I'm like, play to listen to your friend, and you play and make sure that you understand your friend's part that he's playing, learn his part as well as you know your part. You know, because that way the music sounds better when you know everybody's part.
You're on the same page.
Yeah.
Why don't you
Right.
speak to that too, though? I mean, you're an educator as well.
Yeah, I do that, you know, thanks to my kids, because I taught my kids how to play, you know, stuff at home. And I said, I can do this when I retire. Now official retire to work with the kids, because I want them to know that you play to build. You don't just to play to go to clubs and drinking and just showing off. No, you play to build. Someday those scientists, they're going to be old. Phil Jones is getting up there. We need another young man who's going to understand. When you get a Phil Jones bass amp, make sure you understand the tone. You don't just put everything on volume and you start playing. No, you don't know the instrument. So just learn it properly so that you can build it in the future. Sometimes I tell them to take the old basses, take apart and then put it together.
Yeah.
Because that way you stay connected with the instrument. You're not just playing to be famous or something, but you know the instrument. You can build your own or become another scientist in the future.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good point.
You know, it's not just playing. I mean, like right now I got ukulele, bass, and then eventually you're going to see Bakithi's face on the Phil Jones speaker.
That's a little preview there.
We can take you home with us. I have to ask a question before we end, because the minute I knew we were going to talk to you, I've always wanted to get your take on this, because as much as your influence is on a lot of what Paul came out with at that era, have you ever heard of Vampire Weekend?
No.
Okay, well then you should, because you've heard of Vampire Weekend, right? And they had a bunch of, they're still around, and that, I mean, to me, when I first heard Vampire Weekend, I'm like, who's ripping off Graceland? I mean, it literally, not to knock them, because they're a great band. Check them out, and I think you'll be like, now I know what he's talking about, because when you hear that music, I'm literally, it sounded like a modern uptake version of what you guys were doing in 85, 86, and it's great.
And
it's
you know, but the music, it was time, you know, music travels. Same as the years, you know, like now we're on 2024 and there's new music and new generations, new bass players. They play stuff that I don't understand a lot of times. So the music travels. So 85, it was the best time for that music to come out. And, you know, Peter Gabriel was there as well. And there was, I think there was other people doing that kind of music. But Paul's stuff was amazing. His arrangement, just amazing. Amazing.
So what do you have, as we kind of, we'll wrap with you, what do you have current projects-wise that you have going?
Right now I'm enjoying my son and my grandson and my future daughter-in-law. And then getting ready, I have a second gig coming up on Friday. I'm going to be playing the community, because I try to be part of the community as well. Like when they do these events and raise funds for the churches or schools, I want to be part of it. I can't escape. You know, I go to Giants supermarket or Home Depot. Somebody recognized me because Call Me Al is playing. He's like, hey, wait a minute.
Isn't that guy?
That's the guy. Your name is Bake Ziti. And I said, no. No, you sent the wrong guy. He's like, I can't say your name. You're from South Africa.
You know that.
Well, the thing is, too, you always know it's you because you're usually walking around with a bass when you're in the store. So like people are like, oh, that's that guy.
Back in the day, I used to do that in South Africa.
Did you just walk around with it?
Because I didn't want to forget, you know, I'll be like playing the bass, because I'm like, man, if I leave the bass, then I come back home and say, oh, what was I playing? Because, you know, I don't read. So
sure,
I always play and, you know.
It comes out. And when it comes out, you got to capture it, right?
Yeah. But, you know, the bass for me, it was about really play to survive, because where I came from, I'm still struggling to support my family. You know, I have a huge family, but it's not enough for me to give them. And the fact that I'm away from them. So I had to fly my son and my grandson to come and spend the Father's Day with me this weekend, the past weekend, and then also to honor him as a father. You know, it's not about me, and it's about, you know, saving the village. Now I'm working with schools in South Africa to see how I can support them, get some instruments for them, because music saved my life and it can save their lives, you know. So hopefully I'll do something and help them.
Well, it's a powerful thing that you took, you reached the level that you did in your musical career, and it could be easy for anybody at that point to just almost forget their beginnings and forget that, but clearly you have not. You've kind
I
of...
used to, every time I eat, and I always think about my family. I said, man, I hope, they're okay.
Yeah.
Because I'm eating lobster and all this fancy stuff, And during the pandemic, man, it was sad, and I was thinking about my son, and it was very difficult.
Yeah.
It was very difficult.
Well, to think how much sadness and difficult times you've gone through, yet how much joy, not only that you get from it, like how much happier we all were when you guys were playing. It was like everyone's head was bobbing. It was exactly the reason people should listen to music, was what I heard today.
Once Abel Boreal told me, celebrate every day, because life has no guarantee. Just celebrate, be happy every day, just enjoy every day. So that's what I do.
Well, it's obvious. Would you?
You should come to my house. You'll see I have music instruments everywhere. Upstairs I have a studio.
You want to go now?
Downstairs. Let's go now. Yeah,
right,
everybody. Bring everything. I just love to share this gift because it's not something that I make money. I wish I could make money playing music, but it's the gift that we were giving. So for me to give back to the kids, I think it's a beautiful thing.
Oh.
That is beautiful. I have many gifts, but no one wants me to share them. So I'm very happy.
What kind
for you
of
to do
gift do you have?
well, we'll talk about it off camera. Would you play us out? Would you make us smile again and play something for us on the way out?
So if you're gonna sing this song, I'll show you.
He'll sing it.
It's very easy. It's called Makaya. Went forward to Washela Niganje.
I got right. Well, let me write. Can anyone have a pen?
Makaya.
Makaya. So
yeah.
Makaya, went forward to my mama. Makaya, went forward to. Makaya, went forward to. Now. Yeah, Makaya went forward to Usishila Niganje, Basslines limisebenzi yako. Yeah, Makaya went forward to Usishila Niganje, Basslines limisebenzi yako. Yeah, Makaya. Yeah,
Enjoying it so much.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Oh my goodness.
Thank you so much for
that was the end of
You
it.
can
being
keep
with
that.
us,
There you go.
Bakithi.
That's a perfect way to end.
Thank
Guys,
you so
thank
much.
you so much. Thank
It was a
you.
pleasure.
Thank
Genuine
you.
pleasure.
Thank you, my friend. It's awesome.
Yeah. This is a good one.
Woo!
I mean, come on.
Oh!
He wanted me to be wrong.
Was that you in the session?
Come on.
No!
Ba-dum-bum.
With reggaeton and linen, you're sitting on.
Wow!
Good call.
That is it, man.
Right?
Good call. Your favorite band.
You're welcome.
Like no I do.
That is it.
You know this one, right? Yeah, a little more ska influence in there too, yeah.
Yeah, it's got a little bit of Zimbabwean too.
Yep.
Yeah.
Knew it! We'll just,
That's awesome.
yeah, if anything comes up today, you got new music to listen to. We don't even have to do the interview anymore.
That's awesome.
I'm glad you like it. And listen to that.
Paul would love this.
That's what I figured. I think someone asked Paul about it in an interview, and I wanted to ask you about it because.
Wow.
Never. I think he enjoyed it. I think from what I understand in the interview, he was aware
Yeah.
of it and he liked it, but he knew too. He was like, I mean, come on. We know what that sounds like. So the minute I saw your face when you heard it, I was like, okay, good.
Yeah.
I thought I was wrong for a second, which is rare for me. So it's nice. Thank you.
That was awesome.
Okay, good.
Huge thank you to Bakithi for being here with us today and to Phil Jones Bass Amps for making the video possible. For more artist content like this, make sure to like and subscribe. And for all the gear mentioned in this video, head on over to americamusical.com.